Alright, so we're going to change the bearings in a 1999 Toyota Hilux dual cab. So in a second I'll remove the caliper, but first you need to remove 6 bolts, take the locking hub off. Okay, so now remove two 17mm bolts to disconnect that caliper, get it aside, and there's a clip that you'll need to remove from the brake line there, just so it can move about a bit, so you can put the caliper up on a jockey strap. So you just see how it goes in line there, it just slips in. So I've got the caliper now jockey strapped out of the way. I've also put a socket that will fit in between the two pads there, just to stop the caliper closing up and having to struggle with that to put it back on the rotor later on. So now take these 6 nuts off, 12mm. So I've already gone ahead and I've sprayed WD-40 on all these threads, just to make it easier for these cone locks to come out, and I'll show you how to do that next. And so I'm going to go have a break, just let it rest for about half an hour, and then I'll come back and remove these. And do not hit where I'm hitting there with a hammer, because you can see someone else has done that before and it just causes damage. There's a correct way and wrong way to remove this, and I'll do it the correct way in a second. What you want to do now is, I've removed that center bolt there, and now you put the nuts back on, just so you can get it yourself. Well, I'm just using a longer bolt just to put over the end like that, then give it a bit of a whack with a 3-pound sledgy, and just keep on tapping at it until the locking cone comes loose. Wash your hair now, just clean the area up a bit with a rag, just so a bit easy to work with. I've got this locking washer here. Let's just bring that out a bit so I can turn that nut off, and you can see it's already loose. So once I've straightened this out, that nut's just going to come straight off easily. See there, that now that's straightened out. Take this nut off. Shouldn't be that loose anyway. Now that that's off, I'll take this locking washer off, and that's also loose. You can take this nut off as well. Okay, once that nut came off, this just slid forward, so you can get this other washer here off, and the bearings are about to come out. Okay, so that's the rotor off. That's the bearing on that side is out, so I'm going to clean all this up, put a whole bunch of new fresh grease in there, new bearings. With the seal on the inside of the rotor, what you want to do is just get yourself a screwdriver, just keep on working at it, around and around. Eventually the seal will pop up, and you can take it away and get that bearing out. And clean it all up in here, get it ready for the new bearings. Okay, so that's the new bearing in place there. It's the sleeve that was originally pressed in. I'm going to leave that in there. There's a lot of time you can just tighten the nut up, and just get away if I'm tightening that up and keep on using the old bearing. So we're going to put new bearings in. I'm going to need to pack the bearings in a minute, old school way. And I'm just going to leave the old sleeves in there. I'll put the bearings in, and it's nice and smooth. I can't find any problems with that. There's no roughness there. So we'll get the old sleeves to save having to press them out and press the new ones in, and we'll pack these bearings up, get things put back together. So what you can see me doing here is just the old way of packing bearings. So you just tap, get some grease on your palm and just tap onto it and keep going until you can see the grease coming out. And once you've gone around one side and you've got the grease coming through, then you turn the bearing over and tap it around again, get the grease coming out of the bearing from the other side. And you can see there how it's coming through. You just keep on working at it until you get the grease coming through. You can buy tools these days that will grease the bearings up for you, but as a job that I hardly ever do, it's
pointless buying the machine that's going to grease the bearings for me. So this is just an old school way of doing it. Make sure you do it both ways. So once I've finished doing it that way, turn it over, do the other side, and do the same to the other bearing and put them back in.
Alright, so filled back up with new grease, bearing back in, and we'll get this seal on, and I'll get this nice and handy. I'll get this here, and I'm going to knock around until I get that seal back in flush with the rotor there. Okay, with this nut here, what you have to do is get this to hand tight with this 52mm, I think it is, socket that will go over that, and you just basically hand tight and then just give it a little bit more tight. I'm not about to go out and buy a 52mm socket like probably most people who do this and don't have the right tool. What my little trick is, I just like to get in there for a screwdriver, just get a tap around a bit like that, and that's it. So that's good enough there, and I'm going to do the same with when I put this on, because you could see from the beginning of the footage that nut there was already loose before I took it off. That's all it needs to put it back on. So I'm going to put this back on. There's actually the washer I put on the other side of that nut there, same as this locking washer here, have a groove in it that follow that there. So that goes in there. And that's pretty much it. Now I can curve this locking washer up. So just curve that up there, just to stop that nut from turning, locking that in position. I'm ready to put the rest of it back together, pretty much how I took it apart. So I'll add it. With these studs coming out here, just want to make sure that they're all tight in there. And so I've loosened this one off on purpose to show you. Get two nuts together, lock them together with two open ends, and then you can twist that thread in or out. And if they're loose, I would suggest taking them out, putting a bit of grease on them, and putting it back in. I wouldn't use Loctite to keep these in solid, because if you ever did this change and when hitting the nut here, like how I showed you before with the thread, so you can get those sleeves off, and if you made a mistake and threaded the thread here and these are in with Loctite, then you're going to have a hard time getting that thread back out with the Loctite holding it in the back there. So I like to put these in with grease, not with Loctite. Now here is an important step. When you got the locking hub in free, and if that's out like that and you put that on, then you've got it locked in 4-wheel drive. You've got it locked when it should be free. So you want to make sure that that's set properly, like that, in free and wound down. So when you go unlock it, it's going to unlock and put it into the locked hub mode. So that's wound down and in free position. Back on there. Okay, so I'll just get a couple of in position to start off with. So when I lock that, you can hear that lock in, and then I can unlock that. And now it's not perfect.
Thank you for watching TEKNOFIED. If you found this clip useful, give us a thumbs up and subscribe, and I'll catch you next time. Cheers.